Orcs and Humans is the first game in the now towering behemoth of a game series that is Warcraft. It covers the long and bloody conflict of the First War of Azeroth. For one of the seminal titles in RTS history, the original Warcraft helped forge an entire genre and would lay the foundations for the entirety of World of Warcraft as we know it. The vastness of its world and the volumes of the stories all start here. We'll go mission by mission, and try to find links in the geography between the maps of old and the maps now, explain a little of how they came to be, the conflicts that took place there, the history of the places. We'll delve a little into what's been retconned across the years, but we'll mostly cover the history and how it played out. Let's start with the Orc campaign.
Black Hand has assigned you to an outpost in the swamps of sorrow. Your task is simple enough that even the war chief feels that you are capable of it. Construct at least 6 farms so that we may keep our troops well fed and ready to do battle. Only a fool would leave his treasures unguarded, so you must also build a barracks for the defense of these farms.
If you've played any of the Warcraft RTS titles before, this mission will probably feel pretty familiar. It's a very basic introduction into mission structure and combat and construction. Units need food, food requires farms, farms require golden lumber, and golden lumber need peons to mine it. The most notable thing about this mission is that it takes place within the Swamp of Sorrows. During the First War, the swamp is home to several Orcish settlements. Stonard, though severely damaged and its early conflict still exists today, shadow of its former glory. Rockard, nestled in the northern part of the Blasted Lands under the control of the Dreadmorgers that settled post-conflict. And Kiros, which is later destroyed outright. It's interesting to note that although these are all Orcish settlements, the only time that you see them in-game, apart from this introduction, is in the Alliance campaign. It's also not entirely clear in which part of the swamp this initial construction takes place. Given the nature of the lore we know today concerning the Orcs' entry into the world, it's likely that this is Kiros, given its proximity to the portal. Even at a glance though, the green hue of the murky water and the seeming thickness of the muck is unmistakable. Not all missions have a location that's quite as recognizable, which brings us to mission 2.
If only these worthless humans could fight as well as they die! Like the stinging of a wasp, the attacks from the humans grow more and more bothersome. You have been assigned to a small outpost on the borderlands of the Swamps of Sorrow. You are to defend our lands from the incursions of these ravenous dogs by crushing any opposition that you encounter.
The Borderlands takes place west of the last mission and seems to be in the edge of the swamp before you hit Deadwind Pass. This mission takes a similar course as the last, with more of a focus on combat, requiring you to take down a handful of Alliance units consisting of footmen and archers. In the demo version, you're faced with an inevitable defeat as the human forces have your camp immediately surrounded and your units are extremely outnumbered. You're assaulted by at least 40 footmen until you're completely overrun, marking the end of the demo. The Borderlands also takes place after the Grand Hamlet in this version. There's not a whole lot else to be said about it, as it's essentially the same as the first mission, with more units to kill, so let's press on.
The feel of bones crunching beneath your feet is confirmation of your awesome victory! The humans are growing strong in Grand Hamlet. An outpost will be placed under your dictatorship to use as you see fit. You must then prepare and lead a force to destroy Grand Hamlet and all that dwell there. Black Hand will brook no survivors. These humans must be taught a hard lesson in the ways of humility.
This is the first major location in the Orc campaign to not appear in World of Warcraft. It's also the first mission in the Orc campaign to have soft grassy terrain and some sparkling blue water. It's quite a bit easier on the eyes compared to the crackled ground of the previous two, which helps give a solid contrast. It makes it feel like a venture into new lands that are not your own. The Grand Hamlet is completely destroyed during the Orcs' aggressive expansion into the Alliance territory and would later be rebuilt. Due to the close proximity to Karazhan, the area known as Southern Elwynn Forest is corrupted and slowly forms into Duskwood, making the restored Hamlet the Darkshire we know today. I'd like to point out that the layout of these two bridges is remarkably similar to the two bridges located in the southeast corner of Elwynn Forest. The location of both Darkshire and the Grand Hamlet in relation to both sets of bridges is a fairly close match, Whether or not this was intentional, it's still an interesting little geographical tidbit.
Gaze upon the destruction you have wrought and the broken bodies of your enemies. You are wakened from your night's sleep by a runner from the war chief. Blackhand's daughter Griselda has run off with the outlaw Turok's band of ogres. Our wolf riders have tracked them to the dungeons hidden beneath the dead mines. Find Turok's band of rebellious pigs and kill them all, including Griselda. She must not disobey the commands of her father, ever again.
Far further to the west, you and a fearless band of orcs, including a brand new regiment of wolf riders, venture into the depths of the Dead Mines to clash flesh and steel against Turok's band of ogres. This mission marks a remarkable spike in difficulty. There's no reinforcements or any way to replenish your troops outside of raising skeletons of necrolytes. At the very start of this mission, there's a hallway that is completely littered with slime beasts, and they just... fucking hardcore, man. And the ogres themselves are fierce opponents. At the end of the mission, there's a somewhat bittersweet moment where you kill Griselda herself, who was the cause of the whole painful mission to begin with, and it's easy to assume that the orcs probably took some bloodthirsty joy in this small act of revenge. As for the location, it's about as remarkable as most mines in the game. The layout's actually quite similar to the MMO, up to the Forge Room, although you do have to flip the image around to make this comparison viable. We are all well aware of the Dead Mines as it exists today, littered with Defias bandits, pirates, and Van Cleef siblings. But this takes place before Stormwind's first collapse. It's only after Stormwind was rebuilt by the Stonemasons Guild and the guild ordered to be disbanded did Van Cleef and his fellow masons go rogue and set up the base there. Raxor is the only ogre that still resides in the mines today. He may still be a leftover resident from the First War, as there's only about a 20-year difference between Orcs and Humans in World of Warcraft, but there's no way to know for sure. Regardless, let's climb out of the mines and up into the mountains.
The feel of bones crunching beneath your feet is confirmation of your awesome victory. On your return from the dungeon, you receive word from advanced scouts that the recently established outpost near the Red Ridge Mountains is under siege. A group of raiders have been dispatched to assist you in taking back the outpost and crushing the human opposition. Your secondary objective is to seek out and completely destroy their encampment, putting an end to this threat for good. The humans draw near. We're being attacked!
The same camp you established to attack the Grand Hamlet in Mission 3 also appears in this one, in the southernmost part of the Red Ridge Mountains. You march your forces north deeper into Red Ridge to do battle with a shire situated on a lake. It does look remarkably like Lake Shire as we know it today. Even the bridge you cross to get there seems to have some resemblance to the game currently. Some of these seem like a real stretch of the imagination, but it's fun to consider these being used as a reference point when Blizzard was crafting the world map for WoW. The maps of old were obviously altered and modified to better suit the game, but it's these little details that are really exciting to explore. The chapel looks similar to the current town hall, even the farms resemble this house. Anyway, Lakeshire is destroyed. Go Horde.
If only these worthless humans could fight as well as they die! The humans of Sunnyglade have become fat and lazy with their prosperity. The town is like a ripe plum waiting to be plucked. You will march upon their weak human armies and smash them to pieces. Somewhere in the town is a tower that you must keep intact so that we may study how their magics are created. Fail me, and I will have your head on a pike at the gates of Black Spire.
There's something that feels very fantastical about the introduction to this mission. The text scroll, as short as it is, really hits home with me. The plum analogy and the line that precedes it makes the human land seem so lush and comfortable, and the orcs all the more bloodthirsty and vicious. The mention of Black Spire, and more specifically the gates, builds this dark, towering image in my mind. It's somewhat minimalist storytelling, and it may be this font of information and experience that exists outside of the game alone that makes these simple lines seem larger than life, but it really solidifies the game's tone. There's mention of the tower containing some insight into how human magic is created. These magics are shown in-game when you encounter the Alliance Conjurer, who have the ability to materialize scorpions.
What the? Oh Jesus, he summoned scorpions!
Although there's no sign of Sunnyglade or a magic tower anywhere on the world map, nor is there any indication as to where it takes place in the mission text, it'd be a fair guess to say it's probably located in a similar area to the other missions, which would mean the Tower of Azora wouldn't be too far away. The lush green hills wouldn't be out of place in that area, and the river running through it could potentially be the same lake that now separates Duskwood from Elwynn Forest. Another theory is that Sunnyglade itself is the location we now know as Stonewatch. Stormwind Keep is infested with Blackrock Orcs, led by Gathil Zog, and immediately west of the keep lies a small broken tower in a very similar layout, and the lake just south that runs through the map. There's no sign that the tower here housed magic, but the layouts are very close, and the inhabitants also bode well for the theory. Or perhaps it's just another tower that lay dilapidated by the voyage of time.
If only these worthless humans could fight as well as they die! The time has come for you to seize control of the Orcish hordes for yourself. Blackhand has become foolish in the deployment of his personal troops and has left an opening that you can now exploit. A key outpost in the Black Morass is the core of Blackhand's supply lines, not only to his foremost battle groups, but to his castle at Black Rock Spire as well. The complete destruction of this outpost will disrupt his power base long enough for you to secure his overthrow.
That's right, you were playing as Ogre and Doomhammer the whole time! Plotting and executing your vie for Orcish supremacy in the Black Morass, no less. Although the place and events in this mission are extremely notable in terms of lore, the mission is fairly straightforward. There's no escort, or holdout, no other objective besides total annihilation. There is the introduction of walls, which does mix up the strategy somewhat, even with catapults already being unlocked, and you gain access to the Warlock class and their spider minions. Despite it being completely absent until the second game, it's still worth mentioning that the Black Morass is where the Dark Portal on Azeroth's side is located. The last thing to mention about this mission is that the location was later retconned, as on the original map it's north of the Swamp of Sorrows rather than south. Much of the map from the first game has been changed, but this is probably the biggest difference.
Gaze upon the destruction you have wrought and the broken bodies of your enemies. The destruction of Blackhand's outpost has left him in a weak position. The Shadow Council, sensing your rise in power, orders the assassination of Blackhand and elevates you to the position of War Chief. A wolf rider brings you news that our best spy, the half-orc Corona, has been discovered by the humans of Northshire Abbey and imprisoned there. She has valuable information concerning new and powerful magics that would aid you in the destruction of your counterpart, King Lane. Trusting no one to complete this vital mission in time, you must find her and then completely destroy the Abbey to protect her secrets.
The plot thickens. Blackhand's out. Doomhammer's in. Northshire Abbey has obviously changed quite substantially, having been completely destroyed in this mission. It still resembles a holy site in the map cutscene, and the layout of the first building area is quite reminiscent of a church. The Northshire clerics made their home here prior to the war, led by Archbishop Alonsus Faol, and aided Stormwind's armies during the conflict. What's strange about the geography is the side areas outside of the brick and mortar. They appear to be caverns similar to the Dead Mines. The same slimes that appear there also make a return here. It's possible that these are underground passages and are just underdressed for a game from 1994. The dirt passageways do lead to more of the Abbey structure, so it's possible that the second part is much further below ground, and considering Garona is being held captive there, it makes sense. You could theorize that the underground section is the same as the Echo Ridge mine in WoW, but there isn't really a whole lot of evidence to support that. There's no underground masonry, although it may have been excavated since the Abbey's original destruction. Oddly enough, the humans aren't the only subjects of Northshire. The Leftway holds a group of spiders that are apparently nesting there if the webs are anything to go by. Likely an infestation as opposed to human allies. The slimes mentioned before may well make their home in the underground, and there's an ogre guarding each wing of the underground building. There's also brigands, which are exclusive to this mission. These are likely hired mercenaries due to their position outside of the door, standing alongside the Alliance soldiers. A couple skeletons appear in the dirt passageways, potentially unaffiliated and angry dead. Even a fire elemental appears as the final boss of sorts, guarding Garona herself. This is also an irregular unit, and only appears in this mission and in Medivh's tower during the human campaign. Eventually though, Northshire Abbey falls to the might of Doomhammer's Horde, and Garona is rescued.
The feel of bones crunching beneath your feet is confirmation of your awesome victory. With your newfound magics, the time is right to burn the human occupation from our lands. There are 2 human outposts to the south that pose the greatest threat to our security. Reports from scouts near these towns show that the key to your success in this confrontation is to hold back the human forces at their bridges while you strengthen your attack force. The glories of combat will be yours as you personally lead the armies that will reclaim your homelands.
The location of the outpost could be this part of Elwynn Forest south of Northshire, as the lakes match up quite well. Westbrook Garrison and its towers may have been spared complete annihilation and refurbished or later rebuilt. Ravenhill's location would make sense in this case as well, perhaps the central location for all these massacres becoming the burial site during the First War before it too was attacked by the Horde. The new magics in the intro monologue may refer to the Necrolight's Unholy Armor, granting short-term invulnerability at the cost of half of the unit's health, and the Warlock's Cloud of Poison, both of which are unlocked in this mission. It may also refer to the Warlock's ability to summon demons in the following mission, assuming that it takes a prolonged time to master the chaos of such a dark spell. Another line that has been retconned quite extremely is the order to reclaim your homelands. This is all well before the conception of Draenor and the Orcish backstory. In fact, when producer Bill Roper, who supplied all the voices in the game, sat down to record dialogue, he was forced to create the entire story of the game on the spot, as there was literally no script. Hundreds of hours of mythology all started with this one man's startled improvisation. Another fairly straightforward mission, exercising your ability to defend multiple directions, holding choke points at the bridges, and assaulting fortified locations, all of which being important skills to hone for the upcoming missions.
If only these worthless humans could fight as well as they die. You have tasted victory, and the craving for more is upon you. It is clear that one decisive blow to the humans will make the total and complete domination of this race a simple matter. Your spies have gathered intelligence that points to an encampment near the center of the human lands, where their knights and soldiers are sent to train. Although they will not be expecting an attack, they should prove a good fight. The destruction of this site would greatly weaken their forces and etch your position as war chief in stone. None shall survive.
As far as military importance goes, this mission's a big one. Without reinforcements, a guerrilla unit of orcs must strike at the Achilles heel of the Alliance, disrupting the training and forcing down their best resource, its troops. Without the need to build up a base from the start and form an army over time, your attack begins almost immediately. Bottleneck near the beginning can be problematic with human conjurers summoning rains of fire, but persevere and claim victory. The introductory map places the center of human lands between Deadmines and Karazhan. Due to the water running through and the fact that the knights are trained here, I would place this around here on the map between Duskwood and Westfall. The tower and the farm nearby could be both relics from the First War. It's also reasonably close to where the last mission may have taken place, so dispatching a small army from there would make sense.
If only these worthless humans could fight as well as they die. The final march to King Lane's home, Stormwind Keep, is at hand. Only two pathetic settlements stand in the way of the awesome juggernaut your cruel leadership has created. The humans have proved to be amusing opposition, but the hour of doom has come for them. The complete and utter demolition of the Twin Cities, Goldshire and Moonbrook, will sever the lifeline between the king and his people, making him a figurehead waiting to be lopped off.
The Orcs are nearing their conquest, and the human destruction is imminent. Anyone who's played WoW probably knows Goldshire quite well, but it's a far cry from the monolith that it was before its destruction. Not just an inn and a forge, but an entire fortified stronghold. A proud and bustling city standing firm against the Orcish tide, but like the others, it too falls beneath the green-skinned boots. Moonbrook too suffers the same fate. Both places have been rebuilt, shallow imitations of the once great cities, but a testament to the human resilience. Although they reside so close in the game map, it's fairly safe to assume that they were rebuilt in the same place. There also doesn't seem to be any indication of which establishment is Goldshire and which is Moonbrook. Although considering where the last mission took place, turning the map on its side, one could assume this is Goldshire and this is Moonbrook. This is all just simple speculation though, there's no hard science behind it. With the final two stepping stones to Stormwind laying in rubble, the path to victory for the Orcs lies open.
Gaze upon the destruction you have wrought and the broken bodies of your enemies. Stormwind Keep is ours to take. The Orcish hordes gather like buzzards to carrion as the moment of destiny is close at hand. A low growl fills the air as your wolf riders whip their savage mounts into a frenzy. The earth shakes as catapults are loaded and moved into position. The fires of the burning rubble about you dance in your eyes as you gaze upon the pristine white towers of Castle Stormwind. White that will soon be washed with the red of King Lane's blood. With his fall, all of Azeroth will be yours!
The final human resistance against the Orcish invasion is not a light one. The last bastion of humanity hold no quarter for the invading forces and will not relinquish until their dying breath. Stormwind isn't just an impressive settlement, it's a gigantic behemoth of a city, extremely well fortified and well guarded. Despite its eventual destruction, the different portions of the city are quite reminiscent of the districts we see today. Knowing Stormwind and its history changes a simple walk through the cobbled streets. Knowing orcs marched through its gates and murdered its denizens with steel and tooth and fire and demon. Knowing the king would lay dead the day the orcs came. It helps fill the new storm with a sense of dread that these beasts still roam, but a sense of hope that no matter the losses, no matter the casualties, humanity can rise out of the ashes to rebuild.
Gaze upon the destruction you have wrought and the broken bodies of your enemies. With the decimation of the human forces, the sacking of their castle was a simple matter. They offered little resistance once you ran their weak leader through with your warblade and toppled his body into the moat. The taking of Stormwind has kept your warriors in good spirits, and the offerings of gold and jewels that they bring to you are ample tribute to your leadership. Wine flows like blood, and the smell of freshly cooked meat fills you with satisfaction as you begin your victory feast. The countryside is ablaze with bonfires as groups of battle-hardened orcs celebrate the domination of this land with songs of war and victory. You have finally assumed your rightful place as ruler of this realm and as war chief of the Orcish clans. What new conquests will await you in this place? The Shadow Council has begun to bring you information concerning the lands across the Great Sea that are as yet untouched by Orcish rule. The Warlocks also seek your permission to resume their experiments with the portal, their intent being the subjugation of other worlds. With the power you now possess, your choices are limitless, but these are choices for another time.
Thus concludes the Orcish campaign. Stormwind lay at your feet. King Lane is dead. The warpath you have carved out of this land is thick and bloody, and all celebrate your rule. Although it would be more accurately portrayed in the human campaign that Garona assassinated the king, in this tale it was by your hand. The lands across the Great Sea seem to refer to Lordaeron, as the story continues there in Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, despite it later appearing as part of the same continent. Anduin Lothar would lead the surviving refugees of Stormwind to this land after the end of the First War. Stormwind's downfall marks the end of the First War, making it the canonical finale of this section of lore.